Alright, hello everybody. Friendly Red here, and welcome to Red's Radar. We've reached the halfway point of the year, which means it's time to look at the game releases I'm looking forward to for June. Let's get to it, shall we? Right in the middle of the middle month, that is June, on June 14th, we have two releases to cover, that being Monster Hunter Stories and Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin. Interestingly enough, however, these two games aren't exactly new, so to speak. Allow me to explain. The original Monster Hunter Stories was released all the way back in 2017 on the 3DS, and was a really cool RPG spin-off of the Monster Hunter series. Rather than being a hunter and going out to kill monsters like the mainline games, Stories has you take on the role of a monster rider. Monster riders are capable of taming monsters, which allows them to work alongside them, utilizing their unique abilities and attributes to fight off other monsters, as well as help in the day-to-day life. You'll encounter many different monsters from across the series and Stories, and it's up to you which ones you want to try to tame and use on your team. It's been said before, but Stories is somewhat of a mix between Pokemon and Monster Hunter, and considering Stories also utilizes turn-based combat alongside the monster taming mechanic, it's easy to make that comparison. Now, I've never actually played the original Stories game, so this remaster here will be my first time experiencing it, and it for sure seems to be nicely improved over the 3DS original. Official descriptions state that this new version of Stories will contain updated visuals, full English and Japanese voice acting, a new museum mode, and content that was only ever in the Japanese release on 3DS. So yeah, if you're a Monster Hunter fan and want to try something a bit different, or if you like Pokemon or other RPGs in general, Monster Hunter Stories may interest you. And hey, if you end up playing and enjoying the first game, you can keep the fun going, because on the same day the remaster of Stories releases, the second game in the series will finally be releasing on PS4. The sequel, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, originally launched back in 2021 only on Nintendo Switch and PC. Thankfully, Capcom is putting it on PS4 alongside the remaster of the original game, which means that regardless of platform, you'll now be able to experience the entire Monster Hunter Stories duology on PC, PS4, or Nintendo Switch. I mentioned earlier that I never played the original Stories, but I have played the sequel, and it was for sure a good time. I'm looking forward to trying out the game that started it all, and it'll be cool to own both physically now that the first game is getting remastered. The remaster of Monster Hunter Stories will be releasing on Friday, June 14th for PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, alongside the PS4 version of Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin. Now, as if two Monster Hunter RPGs releasing on the same day wasn't enough, we also have another big RPG to discuss for June 14th, that being Shin Megami Tensei 5, Vengeance. Man, June 14th is the day to release new versions of older games, huh? So, kinda like the original Monster Hunter Stories only being on one platform, and a Nintendo one at that, Shin Megami Tensei 5 was originally released only on the Nintendo Switch back in November of 2021. As the name suggests, it is the fifth mainline entry in the Shin Megami Tensei series. In the game, you take on the role of the Nahabino and traverse a post-apocalyptic version of Tokyo as you try to figure out what's happened to you, your friends, and the world as a whole. Along the way, you'll come across demons that wander the world, who you'll have to confront in turn-based battles, similar to what you'd find in the Persona series. Speaking of which, I, like many others, mainly know about Shin Megami Tensei, which I'll refer to as SMT for now, because of the Persona games, as they are a spin-off of SMT. However, after the original release of Persona 4, they stopped including the SMT name in the titles, as I guess Persona became big enough and more of its own thing that they felt it probably didn't matter if SMT was in the title or not. If anything, having SMT in the title would have probably confused newcomers to the Persona series. So yeah, most of my experience of SMT comes from the bits of it that remained within Persona, but that all changed with the release of SMT 5 on Nintendo Switch, which I did pick up when it released back in 2021. While I enjoyed what I played of the game, I ended up putting it down due to a number of reasons. But I'm for sure going to give this new version of the game a look. Not only does it have new content that seemingly doubles the length of the game in the form of a whole new storyline to pursue, but being on platforms other than the Switch will finally allow the game to reach its full potential visually and performance-wise, and I'm excited to see the game in a new light, and for more people to be able to play it. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance will be releasing on Friday, June 14th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Jumping forward 1 week, on June 21st, we have the big one. Easily the most exciting release for this month for me, and one of my most anticipated releases for the year as a whole. Sure, it may be cheating to include this since it's not a standalone game release, but this is too big not to mention. I'm of course referring to the DLC expansion for Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. Elden Ring was a truly magical and special game back in 2022, rightfully claiming all the Game of the Year awards and other accolades it got, taking the tried and true Souls formula and applying it to a massive open world full of countless secrets, beautiful locales, and of course fearsome bosses to conquer, made for not only one of From Software's best games they've ever made, but honestly one of the best games ever made, period. Now, 2 years on from the original release, we're finally getting DLC for the game, and if you know anything about FromSoft games and their DLC, we're in for something really special with Shadow of the Erdtree. Some of the best content and fights within their games has been from the DLC for them, so it's safe to assume that there will be some truly stellar areas to explore and bosses to face in the DLC. I've honestly been shying away from the new trailers or details they've released for the DLC, as I want to go in as blind as possible. I want to feel that same sense of discovery, that joy of exploration that I felt when I was playing Elden Ring for the first time again. And I'm sure Shadow of the Erdtree is going to deliver that and more once it releases. I seriously cannot wait. Elden Ring's DLC expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree, will be releasing on Friday, June 21st for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Next up, just a few days after Shadow of the Erdtree, on June 25th, we have Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Monkey Ball has been in a weird spot these past few years. It's for sure a series Sega still cares about, I think, but at the same time, they seemingly weren't really giving Monkey Ball the time, money, and attention it really needed. I mean, all we've gotten out of the franchise these past few years were some remasters and remakes of older titles, in the form of Banana Blitz HD, which was bad, and Banana Mania, which was pretty good, for the most part. But at last, after over a decade since a wholly new game in the series has released, we're finally getting exactly that with Banana Rumble. And honestly, I don't really have too much else to add here. From what we've seen, it's just looking to be a fun new Monkey Ball game with new stages and some pretty hectic online battle and party modes to try out. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble will be releasing exclusively on Nintendo Switch on Tuesday, June 25th. From one Nintendo Switch exclusive game to another, 2 days later on June 27th, we have Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Similar to the previously discussed Monster Hunter Stories, Luigi's Mansion is a series that I was first introduced to with a sequel, and not the original game. While I of course knew of Luigi's Mansion and Luigi's Mansion 2, I never actually played either, and it wasn't until the release of Luigi's Mansion 3 on Nintendo Switch that I finally got to play one for myself. It's been quite some time since I've played 3, but I remember enjoying my time with the game, and to this day I personally feel it remains one of the best looking Nintendo Switch games, if that means anything. As for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD here though, well, I find it to be a bit of an odd release for sure, especially for a summertime game. Due to releasing on the 3DS originally, I'm sure it'll be getting quite a nice graphical uplift moving on to the Switch, and gameplay-wise it'll at least be quite a bit different from Luigi's Mansion 3, at least in structure. Unlike the original game in 3, Luigi's Mansion 2 features multiple different mansions to explore, with different missions to tackle in each. This was most likely done to work better with the handheld pick-up-and-play nature of the 3DS, which should also transition nicely over to the Switch since it, too, is a handheld. I'll be picking this one up, no doubt, though it may be a game I wait to play until October or something, to better fit the time of year and spookiness that the game has on offer. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD will be releasing exclusively on Nintendo Switch on Thursday, June 27th. Closing out June, on the 28th, we have Spy X Anya, Operation Memories. So, a Spy X Family video game, huh? Certainly not the first anime that comes to mind when thinking about a video game adaptation, but at the same time the show is insanely popular, so I suppose when you consider that, it makes some sense. The game does seem to be quite unique, essentially being a cutesy life sim kind of ordeal, where you'll be living out your day-to-day life in the shoes of one Anya Forger. Anya is one of the more eccentric and imaginative characters from the show, and that seems to be reflected in the gameplay, so there'll be lots of different activities to undertake, varying wildly in gameplay too. Now, I do quite enjoy the show, and for a reasonable price, I think this game could offer up some unique and wholesome fun. But I'll be honest, I'm a bit worried about this game. Typically, games based on anime don't turn out all too great, asking the full AAA $60 price tag for games that, let's be real, aren't at that level of quality. I'm unsure as to what the asking price of this game will be, but I think we can guess it'll indeed be $60. And from what I'm seeing here, I'm not too sure it'll be worth that, at least to me personally. Regardless, I think it's cool to see a Spy X Family game being made, and it'll be something I keep my eye on and eventually pick up for a more reasonable price later down the line. Spy X Anya, Operation Memories will be releasing on Friday, June 28th for PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch, while the PC version's release is still TBA. And there we go, all the releases I'm looking forward to for June of 2024. Summer tends to be pretty quiet for game releases, and I think that's reflected pretty well here, considering our first talking point wasn't occurring until halfway through the month. Then again, the few releases that are occurring are pretty big. I mean, Elden Ring DLC alone makes June an exciting month, and alongside the definitive release of SMT5 and stuff like Destiny 2's The Final Shape expansion, there's enough here to keep people busy for sure. While maybe a bit lighter on the release side of things, we at least have some fun announcements to look forward to this month, with it being E3 season. soon. Xbox will be having their games showcase on June 9th, and Nintendo will be hosting their Summer Direct sometime this month as well, which will give us a good look at what's to come for those respective platforms for the remainder of the year. Overall, a more laid back, but still quality month of releases, with some fun new things to learn about too. I'm for sure looking forward to those showcases, and you can expect some News Peruse episodes to be made about them in due time. But I think that'll do it for this Reds Radar. As always, I hope I was able to bring to your attention some games you might not have known about or weren't too interested in, and relay the info and my thoughts on them well. Thank you for making it to the end of this video, and for your continued viewership and support. I'll see you next time.